That's why we're on the economy. Can you see why Saturday and Sunday penalty rates are different?
Well, I can. The only reason they're different, Neil, I assume, is history.
Will you address that?
Well, it is a matter for the Fair Work Australia. As you know, the Productivity Commission is certainly also examining it. But it's within the jurisdiction of the Fair Work Australia, and they have already made changes to penalty rates in some sectors.
Do people have to get used to the idea that their penalty rates can't continue the way they are?
Well, I think over time you will see a move to a more flexible, more flexible workplace. The transition to that, and of course there has been a lot of movement to that over the years, and to be fair,
well, it's a 7-day economy, isn't it?
And of course it is, Neil. And there's but you do nonetheless have unions and workers who are naturally reluctant to give up benefits that they have, and you've got to be able to, any reform has got to be able to demonstrate that people are certainly not going to be worse off, and overall, ideally, in net terms, better off. So it's not a, I think it's very important, particularly for someone in my position as the Prime Minister, to be able to empathise with the position both of employers and of workers, and understand that each have legitimate claims.
So you're
but
saying
we've got to find solutions to create a more flexible, dynamic 21st century economy out of which everybody wins.
So you're saying any change to penalty rates would not leave workers worse off?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that I think if you what are you saying? I'm saying that should be the case. Well, what I'm saying to you is that if you want to get the support of workers and of unions, their industrial representatives, to changes like that, then inevitably you would have to persuade them that in net terms they are better off.
But were you saying that only be change if they were better off, or if it stayed at least the same?
No, what I'm saying to you, I mean, you're trying with great.
I'm trying to understand.
No. Well, I'm offering you a pretty statement of the obvious. Actually, if you put yourself into the shoes of a union official, and you've got someone saying, "I want you to give up certain conditions or work practices which are inflexible and create inefficiencies," then you, as the union official, would say, "I'm only going to consider that if I am ideally better off and certainly no worse off." And so that's just all. I'm just making an observation about a practical reality.
Something that comes up with a lot of our audience is, what about the possibility of some sort of tax credit for the lower paid workers, which means they don't suffer in the pocket and the boss gets a bit of a benefit as well?
Well, there's a lot. There are a lot of ideas floating around on tax, and we're certainly, as we said at the meeting last week, nothing's off the table, and we're looking with an open mind at it. Again, see, one of the problems with debate about the tax system is that people will say, "Oh, you can't touch that tax, or you can't touch that tax, or you should do something with that tax," and then other people complain. The reality is that we have to look. I talked about the labour market a moment ago. Look at the tax system. The tax system is the single biggest thing the federal government does that incentivises and disincentivises economic activity. If you tax something, people will do less of it generally.
Okay.
So what you've got to do is make sure your goal should be to raise no more money than you are currently, and certainly no more money than you need, and you've got to keep spending under control and so forth. But if you can raise it in a more efficient way, and when I say you, I don't just mean the feds, state governments have got to step up to the plate too.
That gets to the essence of it. Have we got a revenue problem, or have we got a spending problem?
Well, we have a budgetary problem and we have an economic growth problem. And the budgetary problem is that we are spending more than we're receiving in revenue. And the economic growth problem is that we're not growing fast enough, and we need to ramp it up.
In those general terms, how do you fix it? Do you increase revenue or cut spending, or both?
Well, you can obviously do both. At the moment, federal taxes are already a high percentage of GDP. So we are not a high tax government. We don't want to increase the level of taxation.
Do you want to ease it? Do you want to ease it? Joe Hockey was saying he wanted to cut it.
Well, over time, subject to responsible budget management.
That's not close, though, is it?
Neil, I think with the deficit there, I think if you want to draw down that deficit, your level of revenue, your level of taxes as a percentage of GDP, you would aim to bring it down, but in the context of GDP growing. You see, the key to balancing the budget basically is this: you want to grow your economy at a faster rate than your expenses are growing. Your tax revenues are a function of the growth in the economy. So if your economy is growing faster than your expenses, over time, that deficit will shrink.
But in simple terms, tax cuts aren't close.
Tax cuts aren't close. Oh, okay. Well, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. No, okay. I think everything's. I think there are a lot of changes that can be made to the tax system, which would improve the efficiency of the system. You've got to, that the tax system as it stands delivers a certain amount of money every year. The question is, can it be adjusted? And you don't want to have, changes that unsettle, the markets and so forth. They've got to be, change has got to be orderly. It's got to be well understood. It's got to be well explained. It's got to be accepted.
But if you've got a more efficient tax system, everything's on the table. Superannuation, negative gearing, capital gains tax, everything. GST, everything's on the table.
Everything is on the table. That's right.
That's a bit unsettling.
Well, I think the alternative is worse, where you start saying, "Oh, that's not on the table. That's not on the table," and then suddenly there's nothing left on the table, and you've got no options.
Well, when will we know?
Well, we will certainly be making decisions in the lead up to the budget, and obviously, if we have major, tax reforms, we will take them to the next election.